Aha! Bluey discovered an empty corner in the garden. Bluey decided to plant a new tree. Bluey began preparing the planting spot. Bluey wanted the tree to be planted in a suitable place. The small tree was placed down very gently. Bluey watered the newly planted tree. Bluey tried placing the tree in a cooler spot. Bingo also wanted to help plant the tree. The small tree gradually took root in the soil. Bluey marked the planting spot for the new tree.
Wow.
The garden looked more beautiful with the new tree. A small tree can also bring great joy. Fixing the bike in the yard afternoon. A bicycle is leaning against the wall. The back tire is flat, completely deflated. Dad bends down and squeezes the tire. He shakes his head and sighs. Dad grabs a hand pump and attaches it to the valve. Mom stands beside him, holding the bike frame firmly. Sister runs into the house. She brings out a wrench and a cleaning rag. Little brother bustles around, hands over the wrong tool, then quickly switches. The wheel spins hard. The bike suddenly tilts. Mom almost slips. Dad quickly grabs the bike. Whoosh! The wheel pops off the axle and rolls fast across the yard. Little brother runs after it. Sister runs too. The whole yard erupts in chaos. Dad puts the wheel back on. Dad pumps a few more times. Dad spins the wheel to test it. Mom pushes the bike to the center of the yard. Sister hops on and rides a lap. The bike rolls perfectly. Little brother claps and cheers. Mom and Dad laugh together. Covering the roof to avoid the rain afternoon. Mom looks up at the sky, raises her hand to feel the wind. A raindrop lands on her hand. Mom turns toward the yard, signaling urgently. Dad runs to the shed, pulling out a large tarp. The wind grows stronger. Leaves rustle loudly. Dad spreads the tarp over the items in the yard. Flap! A strong gust lifts the tarp up. Dad holds one corner of the tarp. Mom grips the other corner. Sister jumps onto a chair, pulling the tarp edge down. Little brother presses hard on the lowest corner. The tarp billows like a sail. Everyone sways, but keeps holding on. Rain starts pouring down. Water slides off the tarp, streaming down in lines. Items are dry. Plant pots are safe. Chairs are fully covered. Everyone sighs in relief. Building a small fence. A cool morning. The whole family stands in front of an empty patch of yard. Dad pulls out a measuring tape to check the spacing. Mom marks the spots with white chalk. Sister and little brother line up the short wooden posts. Dad grabs a hammer and drives in the first post. Thud, thud. Firm and steady. Mom holds the post, checking the balance by eye. She nods to signal it's good. Sister passes over a wooden plank. Little brother runs back and forth, handing over nails. Thud! The post tilts slightly. Mom raises her hand to stop. The family steps back to look. Dad pulls the post out and adjusts it. Sister holds one end. Mom steadies it. Dad hammers again. Their rhythm becomes steady. The fence grows section by section. The fence is complete. Little brother taps a post lightly. Tap, tap. Mom, Dad, and sister smile with pride. A seemingly ordinary beach outing.
Huh? Wow!
But Bluey and Bingo discovered a mystery.
Whoa!
A treasure map appeared right before their eyes. The search began. But the beach wasn't still. The treasure seemed to be playing a trick on the whole family.
Whoa!
The treasure was cleverly hidden. The best treasure of all is the joy of family. Where's the car? The family gets into their car. Doors close. Seatbelts click. Everyone looks ready and excited. Inside the supermarket, quick montage. An empty cart rolls in. Items pile up fast. The cart is now overflowing. At the register, the receipt prints and prints and prints. Dad stares at it nervously. Mom nods calmly. Outside the store, the family pushes the heavy cart forward. Dad strains. Mom helps steer. The kids push proudly. They move far, very far, like they're walking home. They stop. Dad looks around. No car. Dad pulls out the car keys. Mom slowly turns and looks back toward the store. The family car sits alone in the parking lot. Back to the family, standing far away. Dad scratches his head, embarrassed. Mom crosses her arms, amused. The kids giggle. Bluey is preparing to plant a new tree in the garden. Before planting, the soil needs to be carefully prepared. Bluey starts with the dry soil in the garden. Each corner of the garden has a different type of soil.
Whoa!
Bingo also wants to help prepare the soil.
Oh!
Bluey mixes the soil thoroughly. A little water helps to soften the soil. The soil looks looser and more ready. Bluey checks if the soil is just right. The soil is ready for the new tree. Everything is ready. A healthy tree starts from carefully prepared soil. Lost together, found together. Faces of emotion. Chili sits on the floor with Bluey and Bingo, holding a small, magical hand mirror. Chili looks into the mirror and then makes a very sad face, with her ears drooping slightly. Bluey and Bingo observe closely, and then they both imitate that sad expression in the most adorable way. Suddenly, Chili changes. She flashes a big, bright smile at her daughters. Immediately, the sisters grin back, mimicking their mom's spreading happiness. Chili looks into the mirror and then makes a very sad face, with her ears drooping slightly. Everyone bursts out laughing happily and shares a big, warm hug on the rug. What a fun lesson about feelings!
The Master Blueberry Hunter. Everything was ready for a perfect breakfast, except for one crucial thing. Where did the blueberries go? The Healer Detective team is officially on the lookout. The target, the mysterious blueberry bush in the backyard. Shh! Be very quiet. We don't want to startle the blueberries and make them run away. Look, the garden's blue diamonds have appeared. Dad started harvesting. Bingo learns very quickly and is also starting to reap the rewards. The harvest began at a steady and rapid pace. Done it! You two did a great job. Let's start decorating the cake. Mission accomplished. The best breakfast is the one you hunt for yourself. Congratulations to father and son.
A gentle morning begins with a small plan. A short picnic. No need for elaborate preparation. When the green space opens up, joy appears with it. But nature always holds surprises. Luckily, there are always people willing to help. When working together, everything becomes easy. Joy appears with it. Small joys will stay with you for a long time. Still leave beautiful memories. Just being together. When you know how to cherish short encounters. The great cleanup battle morning. Mom stands in the middle of the living room, hands on her hips. She takes a deep breath, then gives a strong signal. Clean up! The whole family jumps. They look around at the piles of clutter. Dad takes the mop. Sister hugs a stack of clothes. Little brother drags a box of toys. Dad mops too hard. Water splashes onto the couch and the wall. Sister finishes folding. The stack tilts. Crash! Clothes spill everywhere. Little brother stuffs toys into the box. The box gets too full. Pop! Toys fly all over the floor. The family stands in the middle of the room, staring at the new chaos. Mom steps into the center, signals to start over. Everyone works in rhythm. The room gradually becomes tidy again. The living room is clean and bright. They look at one another, then burst out laughing. After a night of gentle breeze, the garden was full of dry leaves. Bluey thought of a way to utilize these leaves. Bluey prepared a place to collect the dry leaves. Dry leaves were collected from many different corners.
Huh? Oh.
Bingo also helped collect the leaves. Dry leaves were collected from many different corners. A little water helped the dry leaves decompose faster. Bluey didn't leave a single leaf behind. The compost bin was ready. Compost will help the plants in the garden grow faster. Everything in the garden is useful. Today's dry leaves will become nutrients for tomorrow's plants. Bluey had just finished his treasure map. But a sudden gust of wind appeared. The treasure map was blown away by the wind. Bluey tried to catch the map. The wind continued to push the map out into the yard.
Huh?
The map wouldn't stop. The wind carried the map further away.
Huh?
Bluey didn't give up. Finally, the map slowed down. Bluey retrieved the treasure map. But the map was no longer intact. Bluey realized something important. Sometimes the treasure is right where the adventure ends. Bluey discovered a very strange treasure map.
Oh. Oh.
The treasure wasn't in one single place.
Woo!
The first X led Bluey out into the yard.
Wow!
The first piece of treasure was found. The map pointed to a different location. The last X was a little further away. The treasure pieces were gradually pieced together.
Oh!
The last X was a little further away. The search continued in the small forest. The last piece of treasure appeared. The three pieces of treasure put together into a surprise. Treasure is truly a joy to discover together. A peaceful afternoon begins with a familiar game. Small puzzle pieces waiting to be placed in their correct positions. A fun competition begins.
3, 2, 1, go!
Not everyone finds the answer immediately. When faced with difficulties, help is always needed. Each person has their own pace.
Yippee! Ha!
When faced with difficulties, help is always needed.
Yeah!
The final result is always worth the effort. In family games, there's no need for winners or losers.
Huh?
When working together, every piece finds its place. The whole family was having a fun time preparing an outdoor meal. But then the wind started blowing gently. The wind suddenly messed everything up. The whole family had to react quickly. The scarf seemed to be playing tricks on everyone. Sometimes the simplest way is the most effective. Finally, the meal was ready. A little trouble made the meal even more memorable.
A day in the life of Bluey.
Huh?
Bluey begins drawing a strange picture on paper. The drawing suddenly changes right before Bluey's eyes. The drawing begins guiding Bluey. The drawing transforms differently in each location. Bingo and Bluey decipher the mysterious drawing. The drawing leads Bluey to the backyard. The treasure is finally found. The changing drawing led Bluey to a treasure trove of creativity.
Wow!
Uninvited guest.
The two fighters are in a meditative state, but wait, their radar has detected a target. Target landed, right in the forbidden zone, the wet nose. The whirlwind tactic failed. The intruders redirected their attack towards Mother. A passive attempt at shaking off attention. The ears are working at full capacity. They both decided to work together. Oh no! Serious traffic accident at the intersection. They decided to escalate the tension. The Clap with the Meatball campaign was activated. Is the war over or not? It seems this uninvited guest is still very stubborn. Sometimes before doing anything, both parties should discuss a plan beforehand. That was a perfect catch. Great job, Bluey. After all their efforts, the mother and daughter finally won against this uninvited guest.
Water volleyball. A scorching noon. The whole family fans themselves, sweat beading on their faces. Little brother spots a basin of water in the corner of the yard, his eyes lighting up. Dad brings out a volleyball. Mom places 2 basins of water facing each other. Sister signals to divide teams, standing on opposite sides. Everyone looks at one another and nods in agreement. Dad gently tosses the ball. Sister makes a clean return. Splash! The ball drops into a basin. Water explodes everywhere. Mom can't dodge in time. Part of her shirt gets soaked. Little brother jumps up to spike the ball. His hand slips. The ball flies off course. Splash! The ball lands right in Dad's basin. Dad is drenched from head to toe. The family stands in the middle of the yard, then burst into unstoppable laughter. Where are my glasses? Dad squints at a newspaper/phone, bringing it very close to his face. He looks around suddenly. His glasses are missing. Dad gestures urgently. I can't find my glasses. Mom and the kids look up and immediately stand. Quick montage. Dad bends down to search the couch, still squinting. Bluey checks under the table. Bingo opens the toy box. Mom lifts pillows and opens drawers. Everyone searches seriously. Dad picks up another pair of glasses. Sunglasses, toy glasses. Tries them on, shakes his head. The kids glance at Dad, then at each other, holding back laughter. Mom suddenly stops. She stares at Dad's head. Close up. The glasses are resting on top of Dad's head. Mom gently points upward. Dad reaches up, feels the glasses, freezes for a second, then gives a sheepish smile. The kids burst into laughter.
Shooting star.
The night has fallen. Bluey and Bandit settle down for a quiet evening on the veranda after a long day of play. Bluey gazes up at the twinkling stars, and suddenly she points an excited finger towards the sky.
A brilliant, swift streak of light, a shooting star, flies across the dark night sky. Both Dad and daughter watch it pass.
Bluey turns to look at her dad, her eyes wide with surprise and a little bit of wonder.
Bandit gently pulls Bluey into a warm hug.
Bluey closes her eyes, keeping her silent wish completely private. She opens them, giving a look of pure contentment. Bandit tightens his hug, savoring the special moment.
Saving a broken plant, a calm afternoon after the rain. The little brother runs around the garden, then suddenly stops. He points. A young plant has been bent and broken by the wind, its stem leaning close to the ground. The little brother bends down to look, his face turning sad. The sister steps closer, gently touches the stem, and shakes her head worriedly. Dad examines the break carefully and nods with a decision. Dad gently straightens the plant's stem. Mom holds the base, adds more soil, pressing it firmly around the roots. The sister places 2 wooden stakes on either side. The little brother passes the string, carefully tying it around the stem. The string is tightened just enough, not too tight. A light breeze. A gentle wind blows. The plant stands firm. Its leaves tremble softly, no longer leaning. The family applauds as if they've just saved someone. Bluey decided to organize a family picnic. Everything needed was neatly prepared. Bingo was also eager to join the picnic. The picnic spot was chosen. The picnic began to take shape. The fun time made the picnic even more lively. The whole family enjoyed the outdoors. A simple picnic was enough to bring joy to the whole family. A peaceful afternoon at home. Everything seemed normal. But somewhere, something started making strange noises. And it seemed there wasn't just one culprit. Chili's mother began to feel something was wrong. The sounds grew louder and stranger. The two sisters were very proud of their prank. But Chili's mother had another plan. She decided to believe it was something very scary, and then everything reversed this time. It was someone's turn to be genuinely startled. It turned out that the funniest prank was when the whole family laughed together. After the first harvest, the whole family had a new idea. Vegetables from the little garden are ready to go into the kitchen. Preparing to cook is also a fun part. It doesn't need to be perfect, just try. Cooking always has unexpected moments. Homegrown vegetables have a very special taste. Meals taste better when they are made together. From the little garden to a happy meal. Behind the house was a small, fascinating forest. Bluey began her exploration. A small path led Bluey deeper into the forest. Each tree trunk had a different shape. forest looked vibrant. The journey included small challenges. It was cooler inside the forest than outside. Bingo also wanted to explore with Bluey. There were many new things in the forest. The exploration gradually came to an end. Everyone reunited after the trip. A small forest can also offer a great adventure. The whole family was having a fun time preparing an outdoor meal. But then the wind started blowing gently. The wind suddenly messed everything up. The whole family had to react quickly. The scarf seemed to be playing tricks on everyone.
Uh-oh.
Sometimes the simplest way is the most effective. Finally, the meal was ready. A little trouble made the meal even more memorable.
Yippee!
Building a small fence. A cool morning, the whole family stands in front of an empty patch of yard. Dad pulls out a measuring tape to check the spacing. Mom marks the spots with white chalk. Sister and little brother line up the short wooden posts. Dad grabs a hammer and drives in the first post. Thud, thud. Firm and steady. Mom holds the post, checking the balance by eye. She nods to signal it's good. Sister passes over a wooden plank. Little brother runs back and forth, handing over nails. Thud! The post tilts slightly. Mom raises her hand to stop. The family steps back to look. Dad pulls the post out and adjusts it. Sister holds one end, Mom steadies it. Dad hammers again. Their rhythm becomes steady. The fence grows section by section. The fence is complete. Little brother taps a post lightly. Tap, tap. Mom, Dad, and Sister smile with pride. Fixing the outdoor table. A quiet morning. The wooden outdoor table wobbles slightly. Every gentle touch makes the tabletop tremble. The family stands around, looking at one another. Dad nods. Let's fix it. Dad kneels down and tightens the bolts with a wrench. Clack, clack. A soft metallic sound. Mom hands over a small wooden piece, placing it under the shorter table leg. Sister wipes the tabletop with a cloth. Dust sparkles in the sunlight. Little brother holds the table leg, tilting his head, watching very seriously. Dad places a cup of water in the middle of the table. Everyone holds their breath. The cup stays still. No shaking, no spilling. The family laughs happily. The little brother claps with a loud smack. The balancing act. Bluey spots a bird perched on the fence and decides to challenge herself with a little balancing game. She slowly lifts one leg, arms out wide, trying to keep her body as still as a statue. But balancing is harder than it looks. Bluey begins to wobble and her little legs start to shake. Dad Bandit notices and steps right beside her. He circles his hands around her, creating a silent safety zone. Seeing her dad's hands nearby, Bluey feels a surge of confidence. She takes a deep breath and regains her focus. Thanks to the silent support, Bluey holds her balance longer than before. She feels strong and very capable. Bandit decided to spend the morning tending to his garden. But as Bandit got busy working, little mischiefs began to appear. Just a slight lapse in concentration, and the whole garden was thrown into chaos. Bandit began to realize that babysitting and gardening at the same time wasn't simple at all.
Aha!
Sometimes, even the most endearing acts of help can lead to a little accident. Hey! But in the end, the most important thing is the laughter and the moments spent with family. Sometimes, things that seem worthless can unlock new joys. An empty box could be anything.
Ah.
A little clumsiness is essential. With help, things become easier. From simple pieces, a toy is born. A homemade toy always brings a special feeling. When imagination leads the way, play becomes vibrant. Every little stroke makes the toy more adorable. When you know how to reuse and create, joy always begins with simple things. The rattling fan, a hot noon. An old fan spins slowly. Clack, clack! An irritating noise. The whole family looks at the fan. Frowning, they fan themselves with their hands. Dad places it in the middle of the floor. He grabs a screwdriver and carefully removes the screws. Mom hands over a small box to hold the screws. She nods, reminding him with a look. Sister holds the fan frame steady. Little brother sits close by, eyes wide as he watches. Ting! A screw pops out and rolls across the floor. Little brother crawls after it. He even crawls under the table. Sister puts the fan blades back on, slightly crooked, but tightened anyway. Dad nods and flips the switch. Whoosh! The fan spins the wrong way. Dad tightens the screws firmly. Dad switches the fan on again. Boo! The fan runs smoothly. A gentle breeze blowing. The whole family claps. No shovel, no problem. A park or open grassy area. The family arrives carrying a small sapling and a water bottle. Mom points to the ground, ready to plant. Dad opens the backpack and searches inside. No shovel. Dad scratches his head and sighs. Mom looks around, a bit puzzled. Dad tries digging with his hands, winces and shakes them. Mom pours water on the soil. It only softens slightly. Bluey and Bingo watch, thinking. Bluey spots a strong tree branch on the ground. She picks it up and pokes the soil. The dirt loosens a little. Bingo's eyes widen. She nods eagerly. The family gently places the sapling into the hole. They fill it with soil. Mom waters it. The tree stands upright. The family steps back to admire the tree. Dad gives the kids a big thumbs up. Bluey and Bingo smile proudly. A light breeze rustles the leaves. Secret gift box. Bluey arrived at the beach on a sunny morning.
Hooray!
Bluey discovered a small seashell at the water's edge. Bluey began searching for more seashells.
Yahoo!
Each seashell had a very different shape. The waves made collecting the shells more enjoyable.
Aha!
Bluey arranged the shells in her favorite order.
Aha!
Bluey continued exploring the beach. Bingo also found a very beautiful seashell.
Wow!
Bluey carefully kept the shells she had collected. The beach still had so much to discover. Bluey watched and smiled happily. Whoa! A simple beach outing brought so much joy. Broken window. A calm afternoon. A balloon floats gently in the air. The younger brother takes a run up and throws the balloon high. The balloon clips the edge of the window. Crash! The glass shatters, shards clinking as they scatter across the floor. The whole family freezes. Dad puts on gloves, carefully gathering each piece of glass. Mom lays down a large sheet of cardboard to cover the floor. The sister passes tape and a small broom. The younger brother hands over a cleaning cloth, stepping lightly. The last shard is placed into the bin. The family exhales in relief. Dad lifts the new glass panel, his hands slightly trembling. Mom holds the window frame, eyes focused. The glass slides perfectly into place. Dad tightens the screws. Mom checks the seal along the edges. Sunlight pours through the new window. The family looks at one another and smiles, covering the roof to avoid the rain afternoon. Mom looks up at the sky, raises her hand to feel the wind. A raindrop lands on her hand. Mom turns toward the yard, signaling urgently. Dad runs to the shed, pulling out a large tarp. The wind grows stronger. Leaves rustle loudly. Dad spreads the tarp over the items in the yard. Flap! A strong gust lifts the tarp up. Dad holds one corner of the tarp. Mom grips the other corner. Sister jumps onto a chair, pulling the tarp edge down. Little brother presses hard on the lowest corner. The tarp billows like a sail. Everyone sways, but keeps holding on. Rain starts pouring down. Water slides off the tarp, streaming down in lines. Items are dry. Plant pots are safe. Chairs are fully covered. Everyone sighs in relief.
Aha!
Bluey begins her treasure hunt in the garden. An X on the map points to a very familiar corner. Bluey digs down excitedly. Something is lying beneath the soil. The first treasure is revealed. Bluey recognizes it as an old toy. Bluey decides to dig a little further. Another old toy appears. Bingo is also curious about this unexpected treasure. This time, it seems to be a real box. The treasure turns out to be old toys that have been buried and forgotten. Old things can also bring new joy. Huh? It's time the room got tidied up. But cleaning doesn't have to be boring. Bluey turns cleaning into a little game. Every task has its own meaning.
Huh?
Working together makes everything easier. Tidying up makes the room more pleasant. The result is something to be proud of. A tidy room for a good night's sleep. The secret painting. A large sheet of drawing paper is spread out on the floor. Paints, brushes, and crayons are placed around it. Mom, Dad, sister, and little brother look at one another. Dad gestures a rectangle in the air. We draw together. Dad sits down at one corner of the paper. Using a brush, he paints a simple house. Lines a bit rough but solid. Mom chooses soft colors. She paints flowers, trees, and the sky. Each stroke slow and gentle. Sister picks bright colors. She draws smiling people, arms and legs a little long, full of lively expression. Little brother sits right down on the floor. With crayons, he draws a big sun, coloring outside the lines, smudging a bit. The family steps back a few steps, seeing the whole painting for the first time. The house is off-center from the sun. The trees are bigger than the people. Colors don't match, lines overlap. They look at one another and burst out laughing. One gentle morning, Bluey made a new friend. Caring for plants requires gentleness and patience. Not too much and not too little. Plants also need sunlight to grow.
Huh?
Small things help plants grow healthier. When we care for them, we learn to show concern. Plants don't grow instantly, but day by day. Caring for a seedling is also caring for joy.